The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Vince McMahon's best-kept secret.
I am the Antichrist of professional wrestling.
David can't run the world title.
I've got a wife, 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit.
How can this show be so awful, Mr. McMahon? I didn't think it was.
Viagra on a pole match.
And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass.
Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. McMahon, the family, the Rock, they screwed us all.
Now you're the editor, right?
Mankind did it. Jumpy, beep. Goldberg steered Russo out of the cage.
I'm from New York.
I'll get downright nasty.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Dirt. This is Vince Russo for Podcast One and the Realm Network, and I'm being joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Lane. Jeff, I got to tell you something. Listen, you know, you and I, we're in the wrestling business, and you know, bro, there are a lot of things that boggle my mind. There are a lot of things that are very troubling to me. But this may be the most troubling of all, Jeff. You want to know what that is?
I do want to know. Let's hear it.
Last week, we had a gentleman, and I do use that term loosely, on the show by the name of Glenn Gilberetti. You may know him as the Disco Inferno. Now, in my view of professionalism, the show with Gilberetti was a total abomination. The guy's got no credibility, doesn't know what he talks about, likes to bury other people when they can't defend themselves, and we're going to put a kibosh on that too. But here's what boggles my mind, and maybe you can help me with this, Jeff. People were actually tweeting me and emailing me that they actually wanted this jackass back on the show.
Yeah, I agree. He brings new excitement level and intelligence to the show.
Do you have an explanation for that, Glenn Gilberetti?
Oh, I'm on now?
Yeah, you're on now. You're on now, bro. How could people possibly want you to come back on this show?
Well, because maybe they think that Lions, Tigers, Chicken, and Eggs is a boring show. You know, week in and week out. I mean, obviously.
First of all, it's Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Dirt. I don't think that's too many words even for you to remember.
I get it mixed up with the Bucket Full of Chicken Egg show. Is that the...
I think it's revenge for you always pronouncing his name wrong.
Well, spelling it wrong, too. What an idiot. You know, bro, let me tell you something. Just a quick sidebar, okay? Vince, do you know why you get a lot of heat, okay, from your detractors?
Why do I get wrong?
Because you constantly refer to yourself as a quote-unquote what? What do you always refer to yourself as? A what?
An all-around great guy.
No. You refer to yourself as a writer.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And when you show like a 9th grade level spelling and a grammar ability, you know, people think that you're a fraud. Because you can't even spell my name right. When you write the thing on the Podcast One site, you spell my name with one N. Okay, the name is Glenn Gilberetti. It's not Gilberetti.
Jeff.
Write your blogs.
Jeff, do me a favor. Take over this show because I need to go get a prop to show Mr. Gilberetti. Jeff, talk to Mr. Gilberetti.
Listen. This is pretty simple. Okay, he writes his blogs. And he writes so poorly, and like here's a guy professing he's a great writer in wrestling, and everybody thinks he's an imbecile, okay? Because he doesn't know how to proper grammar, doesn't know how to spell.
Mr. Gilberetti, you know what this is, Mr. Gilberetti? This is a degree in journalism. Mm-hmm. I have a journalism degree from Indiana State University, a fine institute. This is a degree in journalism, my friend.
Why can't you? How come you can't spell and write and use proper grammar when you write?
Exactly why. Because that's not important to me. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, bro. When I wrote it, if there's a letter misspelled or mispropagated, you know what I'm trying to say, bro. What are you,
Bro,
a spelling teacher all of a sudden?
You need to respect my name, okay? Respect my name.
Bro,
All right, 2 N's next time.
I always gave him the benefit of the doubt and just thought it was the typing.
Bro, the guy's a moron, okay?
Bro,
I mean,
you're
this
a
is-
grown
that's
man. Bro, you're a grown man sitting there flaunting your muscles. Bro, is the only thing in your wardrobe tank tops? Is that all you own? Do you have anything that covers your arms?
I'm going to the gym after this. Vince, you live in Colorado. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, it's like 95 degrees outside today. I've got the fan on here. I got the armrest on the ottoman, so I got the left arm here on the pillows of the nice the chair in the palatial estate, and I'm watching the basketball game as we do this do this podcast.
And it's really gonna get hot where you are later on because one of the innocent, who you buried last week, a very good friend of mine, is gonna come on this show later on. And he's going to tell us about the real Glenn Gilberetti that he knows, bro. Okay?
I got thick skin, all right? Nobody's going to get over on me on this show.
All right, listen, Jeff, let's get back to business, okay?
All right. Raw rating slightly up this week. It was a 2.26 last week, went up to 2.27. The viewership slightly dropped. 3.19 million was 3.24 million. The hourly breakdown, 3.4, 3.3, and 2.9 in that final hour. Do you blame this on... A lot of people they like to throw the blame. They're blaming it on Charlotte and Natty, but we've seen the third hour just dip. You know what I mean? Anyway, but when you look at not going with your big angle at the end of the show, is that the full reason for this plummet in the third hour?
Glenn?
Bro, come on. How many weeks are we going to come on and discuss this? It's there's no threads going through the show. Okay, there's no here's the funniest thing. Because they're so wrestling oriented, they can't wait to get to the match. It's like, bro, they have so many opportunities to basically open a segment, okay, announce a match, interview one guy one segment later, interview another guy the other segment later, let's just interaction between before to make the match mean something. Okay, what they do now is they come out, 2 guys are in the ring talking, they announce a match, 2 guys interfere in the match, they come out, they announce a match, and then they say well, we can't wait to have this match. Let's just have it right now. It's just like, bro, they just announce matches and have them right there. Imagine if this was realistic. Okay, and they basically said Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. They announced the match, and they had a press conference, and they started yelling at one another, and they said, you know what? Let's just have this right here, right now. Okay, you know what I mean? With no promotion, no build up, no bro. It's threads. It's how you develop interest. It's how you develop characters. Like we said before, I'm not a proponent of the way they wrestle, okay, and the style. There is something to say about the style, but they're not being helped out at all, okay, because they're not being given opportunities to create their characters, because as soon as they announce matches, they don't even really have a chance to talk about them. They just basically have to go out there and they got to start wrestling.
Now, Glenn, listen, obviously, again, we're beating the dead horse. We say this every week, but I mean, Glenn, I think it's fair to say the fact that they're not building the show and not building the audience from hour 1 to hour 2 to hour 3, okay? They've got 3 hours to build that audience. Bro, you cannot blame that on anything else but the writing. I mean, bro, listen, Charlotte and Natty, they didn't put themselves in the last segment. They didn't put themselves in the last segment with no build-up. You can't put that responsibility on the shoulders of the talent. So I mean, Jeff, I mean, Glenn, I think it's fair to say that's 100% on the writing, correct?
I agree with it. Yeah, I'm not denying that, bro. I was watching some of the old Here's a perfect example. Okay, when we were writing the old TNA Asylum shows back in the day, which were great shows. All right, and people nobody really got a chance to see those. But if you watch the way the 2-hour show that we produce for a weekly pay-per-view, if you watch the way those shows were formatted, with video production, packages, interviews, backstage interviews, sit-down interviews, just the character building, the thing. Bro, there'd be a segment where when I was managing Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger, okay, we would be wrestling. We'd have to wrestle the guy, the Amish and Roadkill. Remember the guys from ECW? Yeah. So we basically cut a promo beforehand. Look, these guys, these guys ran ECW out of business. There's no way we should lose, guys. It's basically an exhibition game. But they went out and they beat us, okay? But instead of just beating us and not like, and like, okay, they had, like the champions get beat all the time on Raw, okay? Like they get beat like every week, right? Like if you've about, okay. Well, but we had an interview afterwards about how unbelievably pissed we were that we actually lost that match to those guys. So like the loss actually meant something. Right. It's like everything means something. The promotion of the match, what the guys are feeling going in the match, what happens in the match, what they're feeling after the match. Bro, right now Stephanie and Shane announce a match, and the guys wrestle, and there's a finish, and that's it.
That's the show.
And that's and then the next segment, and then we have a thing. Just they wrestle, and that's it. There's a finish. Somebody gets distracted, and they talk about it, and it's not really brought up again.
Glenn, one thing I got to point this out, bro, because this even blew me away. During the week, bro, you sent me an article, and it was talking about the SmackDown rating, and I said to myself, why is Glenn sending me like this like who cares? We don't even care about the Raw rating. Why am I going to care about the SmackDown rating? But then we had a phone conversation, and you told me why you sent me the rating, and I could not even believe it. I mean, tell them about the SmackDown rating.
The SmackDown numbers are back at the highest TNA. The SmackDown numbers are so low, they've intersected with the highest TNA numbers that you had when you wrote there for the highest rated shows. And so a WWE branded show on the USA Network is drawing the same amount of people that TNA was drawing on Spike TV 5 years ago.
Jeff, is that not unbelievable or what?
The show's not important though, so I mean I don't know. Like the show's meaningless.
Right, it just shows you, but basically the mistakes that they're making and losing fans over the course of time and what it's actually meaning, So I mean, it's like we talk about ad nauseum, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah, Jeff, we're gonna have to go off script here for a second because I see somebody freaking chomping at the bit. I mean, literally, bro, literally. Now, Glenn made a statement that is very, very vital here. He mentioned that, during the early days of TNA, you had to pay. It was a weekly pay-per-view, and not a lot of people got to see it. And, that was a good thing for some people because Glenn Gilberetti, in my opinion, now this is my opinion, folks. This is just my opinion. On that show, he literally, Jeff, almost killed the career that another human being had spent his whole life building. With his blood, his sweat, and his tears, he built this iconic character known around the world. And in one night, Glenn Gilberetti literally almost killed the career of this man who I might also add has children that he has to support. Now, Glenn comes on this show last week, callous as can be, and puts all the heat on this individual that he killed his career. I had nothing to do with it. Well, I got news for you, Mr. Gilberetti.
Time out.
No time out. Are you going? I'm done. This is my show. Unfortunately for Mr. Gilberetti, Jeff, this individual was listening to the show last week. And I got a call during the week, and the call was, Vince, I would like to come on and clear my good name and set the record straight. So before I bring him on, go ahead, Glenn. The floor is yours, bro. Put your foot in your mouth deeper. Go ahead.
First of all, okay, let me point out that this individual made my list of people I was going to bury because this individual has been very outspoken on Twitter trying to maliciously and callously and without provocation bury me on Twitter. He always makes comments derogatory about me and tries to discredit my good name on Twitter constantly, and I always have had good things to say about this person. Okay, so I was hurt at these actions to begin with. Okay? So sex timeout. So last week, you tried to spew some erroneous information about who was responsible for certain things, whose ideas certain gimmicks were, and all I did was set the record straight as to who was at fault for the demise of this character.
Okay.
And that's all that I did. Okay?
Now, Jeff, you know how I've been talking for the last couple of weeks about what a great worker is.
Right.
That's a great worker right there, Glenn Gilberetti, because he almost had you believe in him. Almost had you believe in him. But I got the legend on the show. The man, the myth, the amphibian. Shark Boy. Shark Boy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Vince Russo, thanks for having me, man.
Now,
It's great
Shark
to
Boy,
be here.
listen, you're home last week minding your own business, and one Glenn Gilberetti starts spewing at the mouth. You're not here to defend yourself. What was going through your mind when you were listening to some of that trash last week?
Well, I'm sorry to be joining you guys so late. I know I'm a few minutes into the program. I'm assuming Glenn did most of the talking, so I probably didn't miss a whole lot in the first few minutes. I listened last week, and yeah, listening to all the horse crap that comes out of that guy's mouth. I'll tell you what, it's like you said, I've been chomping at the bit ever since to get on your show and set the record straight and clear the air right here on the Vince Russo podcast.
Well, Mr. Shark Boy, the floor is yours. For our audience and the fans listening around the world, please tell us the true story of Glenn Gilberetti.
Of Glenn Gilberetti? Well, what was the name? We spoke earlier in the week. What was the name of that show? That show that Glenn did on the TNA Asylum. What was it called?
Wait, are you talking about the show whose name he came up with?
Yes.
I came up with that. Yes, I did come up with that. Okay.
Let's start there.
I believe, Mr. Shark Boy, you are talking about Jive Talking with the Disco Inferno.
Jive Talking. Yeah. I don't know how that didn't stick in my memory after all these years. Vince, how did you characterize that show? What did you say? How would you describe Jive Talking in terms of the history of the business?
Well, let's call a spade a spade. It was a brainchild, I think, of two people, of Mr. Glenn Gilberetti, and I think his idol, Jerry Jarrett, I think was involved in coming up with the concept of that show. Is that true, You're nodding your head, Glenn. Is that true?
Yeah. He had a okay. So this is where let me give you the history of that show. All right, and in a nutshell. All right. So it was a talk segment, okay, kind of like Piper's Pit. We had the kind of like the 70s lounge setting and everything, and I was going to have guests on the show, all right. And I was thinking, of course I'm thinking big things, Piper's Pit, the flower shop, the body shop, I'm thinking big things with this segment, okay. Let me ask you a question, all right. Would David Letterman have been successful today if every week he had Yakov Smirnoff on the show? Okay.
Shark Boy, I believe that was.
Listen. Would Piper's Pit have been a popular show if Frankie Williams was the guest every single week?
Shark Boy.
Okay.
That was a good one. The Frankie Williams one was a classic.
Yeah, but he would. Okay, but the guy was a jobber. Okay, he was a nobody. He was a zero.
Are you saying Shark Boy is a jobber and nobody is zero? Is that what you just said?
First of all,
Shark was talking about himself there. What are we talking about?
No, first of all, my guests included, okay, that tall green girl that I don't even remember what her name was, that ended up choking out Goldilocks, okay, that she couldn't put two sentences together, whoever she was.
Abyss?
No. It was this girl, some female Amazon wrestler. Right. You gave me the Dups, okay, the Dups where I had to announce the Dups Cup, and then you gave me an ambiguous nobody of a character, okay, a guy, okay, some guy out there whose sole purpose of his gimmick was to be able to drink a drink and smoke a cigarette on the television screen. You gave me a nobody named Dean Baldwin. Okay? Who the F is Dean Baldwin? All right? You're trying to tell me to get over Dean Baldwin on my show, and you're trying to tell me that Jive Talking failed because of anything I did? Bro, you cannot make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what, okay? You're given what you work with. Nobody knows who Dean Baldwin is, all right? I YouTube Dean Baldwin, and Dean Baldwin does exist on YouTube, mind you, but the guy's career, I mean, if you want to talk about,
you killed it. You killed his career.
How did I kill his career?
The Jive Talking segment, that's what did it. Dean Baldwin was on his way to superstardom. He was going to catch up to the likes, the heights that his brothers had achieved. And then and what did it take? About a 4.5-minute Jive Talking interview, and that was it. I'm back to putting the damn shark mask on.
Well, let me tell you something, okay? It's a good thing you did, because Dean Baldwin was headed nowhere and headed nowhere fast. It was like the plane, if you're like flying over the sky and you just turn the power off, and the plane just plummets down to the sea. Bro, let me tell you something.
Wow.
Okay, let's be honest, Vince, okay? Dean Baldwin's going to go nowhere, okay? And in your defense, we took Shark Boy, okay? And in one show on TNA, we actually turned Shark Boy into what the highest selling merchandise guy in the show, one of the biggest draws.
Hey, Shark Boy, did you notice how? Did you notice how that was? We somehow. You were a member of the creative team now. Okay, go ahead.
I was a member of the creative team. You trying to just categorically forget that too?
Let us know. Let us know when we can talk. Go ahead.
Okay. You wrote A Fish Out of Water. You wrote the episode of Fish Out of Water. I just want to make sure I got that straight.
With the fish out, no, I did not write that show, but I was.
That's what we're talking about.
He doesn't know the title of the episode.
Wait, what is the fish out of water episode?
He doesn't even know Shark Boy, one of the most classic episodes of TNA in its history, bro.
I didn't remember that
episode at the time. That was the highest rated episode at the time.
Okay, well I forgot that we named the shows. You would remember the name of the show, but let me make my point here. So the whole point of you guys coming on here and trying to discredit me once again has failed, because what I did is by burying the Dean Baldwin character permanently, okay, and putting the dirt on top of the grave, we allowed Shark Boy to grow. So when you are trying to bring him on here to try and discredit me, what he should be doing right now is thanking me for the job that I did of making sure that Dean Baldwin never saw the light of day again in TNA.
Wow.
Now I would what I would like from you, Vince,
boy,
is an apology from you and a thank you from Shark Boy.
Vince, you go first.
No, listen, Shark Boy, you listen. You've been sitting there. You've been listening to this malarkey where he just claimed ownership of a segment and an entire show he knew nothing about.
You didn't know the title of the episode.
No, I knew what the episode was. I forgot the name of the title of the episode. I don't remember the titles of the episode. It's 15 years ago, for Christ's sakes. Come on, give me a break. 12 years ago.
Shark Boy, can you tell us what happened that night on Jive Talking? Because I remember vividly, bro. You came out as Dean Baldwin. You had the drink. You had the cigar. I remember hearing the pop of the crowd. The minute it was Shark Boy. Remember when Val Venus first came out of the curtain? It was a Val Venus pop. It was that kind of a pop. I heard it, and I'm like, oh my God, we're on to something here. The sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, it's like I had a character. It's like Glenn said, I could drink, I could smoke, women hanging off my arms.
Right.
I was a Hollywood playboy. It was the ultimate wrestling character, and this thing was going to be for once and for all. I could take this mask off. I'm done dressing up like a shark for a living. This would have been the greatest character in wrestling, possibly the greatest character in wrestling history, I think.
And the biggest pop in the history of the Asylum,
Right.
And then in typical Glenn Gilbernetti fashion, he hijacks the episode, doesn't let you get a word in edgewise, and by the end of the segment, they're booing him out of the building, and you were guilty by association. That was the end of Dean Baldwin, bro. That was it.
Yep. I was like I was standing on there next to a dog with fleas and a great big snout, and I got the fleas on me. I got the fleas all over me.
And that was it.
This is typical of you. This is typical of you when you bring guests on the show and say, "Can we agree that Glenn Gilbernetti ruined WCW?" You're trying to deflect the praise. Bro, let me tell you something. One person and one person only booked that segment and wrote it down and read it out loud in the production and put it on the show, and that was who? That was you.
Yeah,
Dean
because
Baldwin on Jive Talking.
I thought you had some talent. I thought you had a little bit of time. I mean, come on, Shark Boy, right? Wouldn't you, a guy who's in the business for 30 years, wouldn't you think he can get this over? We're giving him a huge star. We're giving him Dean Baldwin, a huge star. Would you not think that he would be able to get the segment over?
A monkey with a typewriter would be able to accomplish this. I don't understand where the disconnect was.
You know what the PWI 500 is? Pro Wrestling Illustrated have the top 500 wrestlers every year they rank. Bro, you could make a PWI 5000 and Dean Baldwin would never make that list.
Oh,
all right? Okay.
Boy, that's heavy, bro. That's heavy right there.
Well,
bro.
I mean, you made sure of it, Glenn, with that one segment. You made sure of that.
Shh. You should have stuck with the Shark Boy, right?
And
Shark Boy wasn't Shark Boy drinking and smoking after that too?
Well, yeah, because he had many careers when I got involved with his career, and you were out of the picture. Then he had many careers. Now, Sharp Boy, is it fair to say? I know, Sharp Boy, you have 2 kids now, don't you?
3. I'm remarried and I have a stepson and 2 biological sons. 3 boys.
Now, is it fair to say with 3 kids that you were on the verge of being homeless because of what Glenn Gilbernetti did to you?
Yeah, every night we sit down and have our meal, and you say your prayers and you thank people, and we just thank everyone that Glenn Gilbernetti is no longer involved in my career in any way, shape, or form. And then we eat bowls of gruel. It's very good.
Now, Sharp Boy, is there anything we got the entire audience listening? Is there anything once and for all you'd like to get off your chest to Mr. Glenn Gilbernetti while we have him here?
Well, I want to know why. It's hard for me to believe that he had the foresight to know how big Shark Boy was going to wind up getting in TNA, and it's hard for me to believe that by design he sunk Dean Baldwin's career. I mean, he's sitting there pointing at it. It's like it was all there the whole time, right? That was the plan, Glenn. It's just hard for me to believe that.
Now,
Vince Russo's the one that's described me on record as a creative genius.
Well,
so I mean, that's it's obviously I saw the opportunity. First of all, I didn't do anything wrong. I brought Dean Baldwin on there. You talked about like all some dumb slogans that you had, like you had your drink and your cigarette and everything. It was stupid. Bro, the gimmick was a disgrace. Okay, I mean, bro. Let me tell you something. The gimmick was worse than Irish Pat Kenny.
Okay? Oh, bro, Shark Boy, you might want to lawyer up at this point. This is borderlining.
The gimmick was worse than Irish Pat Kenny. Okay, so it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Hang on, I'm making some notes here. Worse than okay. I got to get this to my lawyer.
This is defamation. This is now clear-cut defamation of character, Shark Boy.
He's defaming this character and also the one that he killed already.
Shark Boy, are there any chances of you apologizing to Glenn Gilbernetti for the death of Dean Baldwin?
He didn't. I don't think he wanted you to apologize. He wants to thank you for me, right?
Is there any chance? I'm certainly not going to apologize. Is there any chance of you thanking him?
No chance. Absolutely not.
All right, Glenn. Any chance of you apologizing for what you did to the short-lived career of Dean Baldwin?
For what? I'm not apologizing. What are you apologizing? It was your segment. You're the one that booked it. Okay, I'm not going to. I mean, that's like. What am I going to apologize for? He's Shark Boy. Dean Baldwin was a stupid idea. Okay, right? Thank God it only lasted one segment. And thank
Oh,
God Jimmy
God.
Guerrero was smart enough to know that was a bad idea too.
You want to know the true story though behind Dean Baldwin? It was a name that I had used, but I started out in the business as a referee, and I had a lot of people tell me they thought I looked like Alec Baldwin, so I just used the name. I didn't do anything as far as a gimmick with it, right? And then when I met Jim Mitchell, Mr. James Vandenberg.
Genius of a man.
Thank you. Yes, he is the one who actually helped me put the character together.
Oh, there we go.
We've got to put the loud shirt on, and we've got to have the Martinez.
Oh yeah, of course.
And the women. I'm not kidding. And I say that.
Of course not. Yeah, of course it's not. Yeah, of course it's not your fault now. Now it's all of a sudden now it's James Mitchell's idea. You know, this is so typical of you and Vince.
You got a hold of it.
Bro, this is so typical of you and Vince.
Shock Boy, we have not heard from the great Jim Mitchell in some time. A good friend of mine, one of the most underrated men. Is it fair to say? Are you trying to say now that Glenn Gilberetti killed the career of James Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why we haven't heard from James.
That's why we haven't heard from James.
Get him on here. We need to find Jim Mitchell. Yeah. And get him on here to debate this with Glenn.
Well, listen, Shark Boy, since he won't apologize, I'll apologize for him because I was there. Bro, you know how, listen, Shark Boy, have you been to, big arenas during, a big sporting event where it's, 25,000 people and you could feel the rafters shake?
Sure, absolutely.
That's what I felt that night when you came out. Before Glenn opened his mouth, that was the pop I experienced.
Okay, bro, this is on YouTube. Are you sure you want to go there?
This is what I remember.
Here's what I remember. I remember introducing Dean Baldwin and a symphony of silence. Okay, I mean you could literally hear the change rattling in people's pockets as they were getting up to go to the bathroom. Okay, when that segment started. That's what I remember. Okay?
I apologize for the conduct I can't take responsibility for what comes out of his mouth. I'm very sorry of what happened to you and your family. I apologize for putting your future in the hands of Glenn Gilberetti. I should have never done that. I'm willing to take responsibility and apologize for that. I hope you'll accept my apology.
Definitely, Vince. There's no heat between us. Okay. You're working with what you had, which was the jive talking segment.
Yeah, that's not much. Well, listen, Shark Boy, listen, Shark Boy, and not for anything, Shark Boy. I know you can't get into this because, there's legalities and stuff, but here's Glenn Gilberetti, taking no responsibility for almost killing your career, but aren't you the same man, Shark Boy, that almost single-handedly took down the Walt Disney Empire pretty much?
Well, Vince, I can't comment too much about that. But I did just get a text from my lawyer, and he wants to talk to me about Glenn Gilberetti. So,
all right. Well, Sharp Boy, you go take that call. But listen, tell everybody where they could follow your great career that's still going strong despite what Glenn did to you.
Well, my website is sharkboy.net. I'm on Twitter as at sharkboynet. That's the best place to find me online, and If I come to a town near you, if I swim into town, please come check me out. Come watch me wrestle. I won't be wearing anything Baldwin, thanks to Glenn Gilberetti.
Well, listen, if your lawyer needs to talk to me, Shark Boy, you know where you can get a hold of me.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
And Glenn, son of a fish.
Okay, now, the truth. See, the truth is always going to come out.
Yeah, the truth. You ended up apologizing, which is the way that thing should have turned out. Okay,
you know what you need to do? Jeff, you know what he needs to do, Jeff? He starts every sentence, if you notice, with first of all. He needs to start every sentence with last of all. So it's the last thing he's going to say, and we can go on with the show. What's next in the news, Jeff?
Stephanie McMahon has announced that she is publishing her memoirs. And the company is Reagan Arts, and their CEO had this paragraph describing Stephanie that I wanted to get your thoughts on, Vince, because I knew you would love this. This is from Judith Regan, CEO of Regan Arts.
Judith Regan, by the way, Jeff, just so you know, she did Stern's book. I mean, she's like the biggest hitter in publishing. She's big.
This is what she says about Stephanie. Stephanie McMahon is one of the great visionaries behind the continuing success of WWE and has navigated the entertaining, treacherous, and awe-inspiring world of superstars, egos, and drama with style, tremendous skill, and dynamic feminine force. And that's just dealing with her family. That family encompasses everyone in the WWE family worldwide. Her story is Shakespearean in its drama and comedy, and she is in a unique position to share an inside view of one of the world's most successful organizations. Her story will also motivate you to get off your butt and make magic happen. I love her, and you will too when you read her book.
Glenn?
That's a great, who wrote that?
Judith Reagan. Judith Reagan is
tremendous.
like, she's huge.
What is she's a great promoter then. That's a great, if women, let me tell you something. If you're a woman and you don't watch wrestling, I want to read that. Right?
I gotta tell you, I mean, not for nothing, Jeff. Listen, I could pick this apart for the next hour. I'm not gonna waste my freaking time. But here's the thing that I will say: give me, honestly, guys, let's be open here. Let's be open and honest, Glenn. Let's be open and honest. Give me one specific example. One where you can label Stephanie McMahon a great visionary. Give me one example that Stephanie McMahon, show me one thing that she's done since she's been at the WWE that nobody else has ever done before.
Bro, you're missing the point here. Don't you understand? Stephanie McMahon is a professional wrestling character. Okay, that bio or whatever. What do you call it? The thing she wrote, the prologue or whatever it was.
No,
what do you call that, Jeff?
It was just
a press
she
release.
just said this in the press release. Yeah.
Bro, it's a work.
No, bro.
But time out. No. You can write it like that because Stephanie is a professional wrestling character. Who cares? I mean, it's like, bro, you're trying to work the normal people into buying these memoirs. So you're going to, work the press release into making it sound like you're trying to sell it.
Yeah, bro, but I hate to break the news to you. Jeff, in case he forgot, let me show my journalism degree again. I hate to break the news to everybody. You're not supposed to be lying when you put out a professional press release. You don't lie about the product, bro.
She's a professional wrestler. What are you crazy, bro? Look at all the wrestling books. What they're supposed to be shoots because they're written by wrestlers.
You think Judith Reagan is writing this PR release because Stephanie's a wrestler?
She's just repeating what she's been being told. Because she probably thinks she's a great visionary because, bro, who cares about this? I'm not going to, are you going to, it's a great idea. People in wrestling are going to read it, and women are going to read it. Okay, so it's a great, why not sell them? Why not sell your memoirs? Are you trying to criticize her for trying to make a buck?
No,
bro,
I'm not criticizing.
You wrote some books. So what's
bro? I'm not. Did I criticize anybody for trying to make a buck? I'm criticizing. Give me one example of Stephanie McMahon, the great visionary. That was my question.
I'm going to have to read the memoirs first.
All right, Jeff. Jeff, see what I mean with him, bro? That's all. I'm just saying, give me one example.
I'm not writing it. Okay, so she's writing it.
When's the Glenn Gilberti book coming out, bro? When's that book come? What's that going to be about? 2 chapters?
I'm going to bury everybody. It's going to be a burial. Trust me, bro. Nobody's going to be done. Everybody's going to go. It's going to be like a casket match.
Hey,
trust me.
Jeff, let's go on. I see you, and Jeff, you got to explain this to me because I didn't understand. Batista's quote on Stephanie slapping wrestling. I didn't grasp it. Explain this to me now.
Okay.
I read this.
First, I guess WWE had just recently trademarked Lady Balls for a book title.
Lady Balls?
Yes. So it's possible that that could be the title of her book, or it's just a coincidence. We don't know.
Yeah, what about, I didn't understand this Bethesda thing. Explain it to me.
Okay.
I understood
Did
it
you
right
see
up
this
front. So yeah, it's total sarcasm, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Stephanie puts out a tweet. It's arguable that the slap is my character's finishing maneuver. Who do you think was hit the worst? And she put hashtag Steph book, so I don't know if this is to promote her book or whatever, but Dave Bautista quotes her tweet and says, plus it helps to get guys over, and it builds a great angle for when you get your receipt. It looks good. I tried. So
Yeah,
Vince,
you couldn't get that, Vince?
I got it, but
the first sentence is the whole tweet, you know. Plus, I mean, basically just say like he's just, you know, he's just talking about basically she's constantly burying the talent.
He's saying the same. Yeah, he's saying the same thing that you said.
Everybody says.
Well,
And I can't believe you know, this is like this is the guy that's flashing his journalism degree, and he's coming on your show talking about what is SAWFT means, solve. What they got to explain that. What does that mean? You know, it's like, bro, you just sound like an imbecile sometimes. You know, you couldn't understand that tweet. He was making fun of her. I mean, like everybody sees that.
Bro, I thought it was sarcasm, but he could have come out and said it. That's why I was a little confused. Why not just come out and say it? I come out and say it every week.
He did come out and say it in a tweet. He only allowed 140 characters to cry out loud. You know, it's like that's how they work.
He was saying it humorously.
Right. How could you not figure? You know, that's hysterical, bro. This is not your best moment on the show. Is that you're trying that you didn't understand that tweet, and everybody else, like literally, you might be the only person that did not understand that tweet.
Bro,
seriously.
I'm saying I knew he was being sarcastic, but why be sarcastic and just not say it? Well, I don't know.
Because he's saying it sarcastically. That's how he's saying it. He's using sarcasm. You know, that's what tweets do. They get attention like that. You know, that's tweeting. That's emojis and things and stuff.
Glenn, I guess that went over my head. What does he mean by the end when he says I tried? He tried what? What did he try doing? What does that mean?
He tried to put it over as a great move.
Right.
Sarcastically.
Right.
I tried to make it look good, Stephanie. I failed.
Right,
you know
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
All right.
It's like everybody knows she's burying everybody.
But basically,
she's basically getting off on burying everybody. And like, let me tell you something.
What's your opinion on that? Because we talked about that last week. Like,
bro, if there's got to be some big end game. There's got to be one guy that's just waiting, that they've figured that's waiting to just tell her off, and just, you know, maybe like, you know, or maybe she falls in love with Roman Reigns, and, you know, they turn Hunter into a big baby face now. I don't know.
You don't really
I don't
believe
that, but that's how I would write it. You know, I'm just waiting for one guy, like, you know, when she keeps coming out here and dressing these guys down, and, you know, tonight you're gonna wrestle so and so. You know, I just want one guy to just say, you know what, Steph, that doesn't work for me. And then she'd be like, what? What are you doing? I mean, it's like, you know, or this is, you know, Stephanie, why don't we book your lips in my butt, and you can kiss my ass, and we'll put it in a steel cage right here on Monday Night Raw tonight. You know, somebody else waiting for somebody to say that. You know, just bury her for once.
But Glenn, it's been going on for so many years, bro. This isn't just start.
Eventually, it's like, I mean, your take on it was pretty good. That basically, you know, maybe the writers are just scared of her and they're just constantly writing her to look good and stuff and everything, and nobody else is telling her that, like, you know, I mean, she's got to be reading this.
No, bro, that's what I'm saying.
She's got to know that she is burying everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, so it's like you're not doing anything by this unless you want unless you want
to sell your book.
Or win the title, you know, yeah. Like, basically, right? You know,
I mean, it's a combination of two things, bro. Let's remember, we had Vince McMahon peeing his pants in Fear of Austin. He literally wet his pants in the middle of the ring. Okay,
right? Okay, well, what I'm saying, but he also had people kissing his ass, bare ass on TV. So I'm saying, so it's like when they were doing that, when they were kissing Vince's ass, everybody was saying, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" You know, but Vince would always later on you'll let them get their heat back, But Stephanie just hasn't given that spot back yet. But we could all be talking about this right now and burying it, and there could be some unbelievable spot coming up where some guy just buries her and gets a huge pop, and they develop a pretty big star coming out of this. But you know what I'm saying? Like, anything can change. It can change in one show. But as it's gone so far, it's been terrible. She just the whole. It'd be different if the ratings weren't going down every single week. It's like the losing viewers of the on-air authority figures are burying the talent, making them seem like lesser people than them and stuff, and the ratings continue to go down. So that's where this there needs to be an end game, because if they continue doing this, it's like they're not promoting anybody; they're just burying everybody on the show. So.
Yeah. Well, all right. What's next, Jeff? Yeah, because I want to hear this next one, because I saw the headline but I didn't read it.
Paul London had some interesting comments. He was a guest on the Pancakes and Power Slams, and he was talking about his time in WWE. Of course, he was there in the mid 2000s, 5-6 years, whatever it was. And there was 3 comments he made that I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. And the first one was an encounter he had with Billy Kidman, where Kidman accused him of stealing his move. And what Paul said was, I remember we were working, and I think Matt Hardy and Shannon Moore in New York, and I decided that we could start doing something where Brian, and he's talking about Brian Kendrick, Spanky, who is his tag team partner, he says where Brian is on all fours, and I run, jump off his back, and do a shooting star press off of his back. So I started doing that in the matches, and it was getting really good reactions, how we were using them. And I remember Kidman coming up to me, and he said, hey, man, you going to steal my move every night? You're going to keep stealing my move every night? I just looked at him and said, do you do a running shooting star off the back? He goes, well, no, but I go, well, yeah. Brian came up to me and was like, man, what is wrong with you? You don't talk to somebody like that. If I was him, I would have slapped you. Well, it was kind of a dickhead thing to do, to come to me and act like he owns every variation of the move when he can't even do it that well himself.
Paul London completely 100% in the wrong. 100% in the wrong. If you're working in the same federation as a guy and you're in the same show, there's a respect given if you want to start and say, hey, can I do this variation of your move? He's doing somebody else's move, period. We just didn't do – that's the first time I've ever heard of anybody actually stealing a guy's move that was on the show. They were on the same show. We never did that. We would steal – like WCW guys would take WWE guys' moves because it's not – it's not in your universe. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But we would never steal like spots. Bro, the guys on the show stopped using the DDT because that was Raven's finishing move. And Raven, they came in and they said, "Hey, Raven's using the DDT now, guys. That's his finish." And it wasn't like he just did it, but like it was brought in and said, "Hey, it's kind of understood. You're not going to use this move, bro." The shooting star was Kidman's finishing move. Just because one is doing a different variation, but he's completely 100% wrong.
Yeah,
on this. He can't even put it. Yeah, he's clueless.
Yeah, and Kidman did the right thing by approaching him, correct?
Absolutely. He finally had to, because the guy then went up to him and said, hey, bro, do you mind if I use this variation move? Maybe he would have let him do it. Yeah. You just don't do it and then say, hey, F you. I do a different variation.
Well, thank God you never had to worry about anybody stealing your moves. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. I did the People's Elbow and Rock's move, and Austin's move. So it's like, if I was stealing moves, I was stealing the top guy's moves.
Wait, did you ever steal Dean Baldwin's move?
He didn't have any moves. He didn't have any matches.
All right, go ahead. Tell me about DiBiase, man.
Yeah, this was a comment. He's continuing in the interview. He said, Ted DiBiase Sr. pretty much lost all of our respect in a matter of seconds. We were sitting in the catering section. Everyone had pretty much finished up eating, and we were wrapping up eating as well. $1 Million Man walks in there, and he pulls us aside. Well, he pulls them aside, Eminem. He's talking about Nitro and Mercury, who were in a program with Paul and Brian Kendrick, and he said, because I think we were wrestling again the night as a build-up match for the inevitable pay-per-view championship match. So we were kind of throwing around some ideas for the night, and Teddy walks in there, pulls them aside, and says, I just want to clarify the decision to switch the titles is because Joey Mercury has this injury issue. It's not because of these guys, definitely not because of anything that these guys have done. he kind of just threw that at us in our face. It was a really backhanded thing to do. It was just flat out rude. Brian got up, and I think he was about to give the $1 Million Man sliced bread number 3, and I had to intercept and walk him outside.
Glenn, what's your feeling on that story?
I think maybe Paul London might be a little oblivious to things that were going on back then. That maybe Paul London had a big mouth and probably didn't realize it, and maybe DiBiase said that in front of him because he had a big mouth and was like doing disrespectful things, like for instance the Kidman thing. Okay, so like maybe Paul London is just kind of oblivious to what was how to act in the locker room. I may be wrong, but if DiBiase just did that and for no reason whatsoever because they were like good guy, they've been doing everything right or something, then yeah, that's wrong for Ted. But I can't see like Ted doing something like that unless they were running their mouths beforehand. That's like something you like addressing down to a guy. When you do that, there's usually a provocation. Yeah. Like something that they've done beforehand to to cause there's a cause effect. I mean I don't know the story, but I'm not just giving you hypothetical situations here, but that's what I'm thinking. Just based on the previous story with London, how he kind of like saw nothing wrong with something.
Did you ever feel were there any cases where did you ever feel disrespected by an agent any time in your career?
No, not by an agent, not at all.
Were they?
Because we always respected the agents. Yeah. Because these guys like Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Terry Taylor. These are guys like we grew up watching these guys, and these guys were big stars and great performers. So there was always a tremendous amount of respect for the agents. So we wanted, like we never thought we were smarter than them. When like in WCW, nobody thought they were smarter than Arn and these guys. You know what I'm saying? Everybody always knew we respected them so much that basically, hey, they're not, we're not smarter than these guys. Let's listen to what they say, But then, you fast forward to like the TNA years. And it's like the millennials, kind of they don't really respect the opinions of the veterans anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like what's happened over the years.
Glenn, I want to ask you this question, bro, because listen, and this happened to me quite a bit, in wrestling. And bro, I still have heat. I still have heat with some people, some of the boys today because of this. Mm-hmm. Glenn, my stance was I was always brutally honest with the talent because I was like, this is your career, bro. This is your livelihood. You need to know what's being discussed about you. That's how I was, bro, because this is what you're doing for a living. You got a family. You got people you're taking care of. And I was brutally honest, bro, but one thing I always used to find is a lot of guys did not like to hear the truth. And when you were honest with them and they disagreed with you, now they had heat with you. Were agents always brutally honest? And how did you deal with maybe an agent telling you something you didn't like, maybe about your work after that match? How did you deal with that, bro?
They were right. Like every criticism I ever received, I took it as constructive criticism. So because I knew they were right, and I was like, wow, yeah, you're right, because they were right. So it's like you tell them something. People don't. Bro, let me tell you something. When people read their pub on the internet, when they read good things about them, and you don't really consider the sources.
Right.
Something when you have somebody else telling you think the people that's telling you the opposite are stupid. You think they're just doing it because they're haters and stuff and all that. So that's just the mindset, bro. It's just there's just been an education throughout the past 10 years in wrestling that just hasn't been good, because they got guys doing the wrong things and stuff, and just there's so many there's so many errors being made that me and you can see, because we have been, we have seen wrestling during periods of incredible success, okay, and now we're looking at wrestling during periods of incredible failure. Compared to the other, the area that we're in, and these guys are doing things, and they don't think they're doing anything wrong, because people are telling them how great they are. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, it's like the big fish in the,
the wrong people are telling them how great they are.
Right. I mean, it's like they're basically, like I said, bro. Anybody that's putting over anything in wrestling today, you're a product of a fan that doesn't draw. It's like the coach of the team that went 1-15 last year. You know, instead of being fired, he's coaching the team again this year, and he's calling the plays again. And you're listening, like everybody's saying, hey, everything's fine, everything's great and stuff, and the team keeps losing every single week. Yeah. You know, and it's like the guys, like, here's the guys that they played in the Super Bowl, you know, years ago, and they're saying, yeah, guys, you're not doing this right, you know. So,
Glenn, I know I always pick on them, but I just got to tell you, like this past week, bro, I don't know, bro, something happened, and I started going down memory lane. I love looking at pictures of Blassie, Albano, and the Wizard together. I like it, bro. I can't imagine. Bro, can you imagine a car ride with those three guys? Like, I love. But, bro, as I'm going through these pictures, you know, who do I come across of with the Wizard? Superstar Billy Graham. Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and bro, during the Bruno years, like that was the heel. That was the guy. And then, bro, not for anything. I'm looking at pictures of Superstar. I'm doing the Pat Kenny. I'm going to YouTube. I'm hearing every promo. And now I'm switching over to 2016, and I'm seeing Kevin Owens as a top heel. And I'm like, bro, like seriously, bro, seriously.
Bro, let me tell you this. Maybe you're gonna get to this news, but I'll bring it up. Okay, John Cena is hosting the ESPYs. Okay.
Wait, before you get to that, because it's a topic. Don't go there yet.
Okay.
Jeff, you had one last thing about London said about the WWE.
Yeah, he said, when you work there, you eat so much crap. It's like middle school all over again when you work there, on any level that you're at. I don't care if you're the megastar or the opening guy, corporate office guy, whatever. At some point in your tenure there, you're going to be treated like garbage, absolute garbage. And like less of a human being, like the stuff you wipe off of your shoe that you stepped in by accident. And you're going to be treated like that constantly. It's a constant mental hazing. It's disgusting. It's a horrible, horrible place to work. Absolutely awful place to work.
Glenn, what do you think about that?
I mean, have you heard a lot of other people say that?
Well, Glenn, I got to tell you, Glenn,
if you love professional wrestling, I can't imagine any place being that horrible place to work, because ultimately when you step through that curtain and around that ring, it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what if you're that disenfranchised with backstage politics or so, you're probably a very depressed person or something like that. I don't know how I can bring you down that much. You know?
Well, Glenn, I gotta say honestly, like, listen, man, I witnessed people being punished when they weren't told things man up face to face. You know, like this is why you're not getting booked. This is why you're not on TV, and just shooting straight. I saw a lot of a lack of that, and guys being punished like almost school children. I kind of feel like Paige is going through that right now, because there's no other reason for her not to be on TV. But so like I kind of know where he's coming from. I don't believe the business is as straightforward as it could be when it comes to guys' careers.
I'm not going to argue with that. You know.
All right.
But they don't have to be so.
Skip the announcer thing. We'll get to that last, Jeff. Go to the Cena thing. Go ahead, Glenn. What were you going to say?
Yeah, go ahead with the ESPYs.
John Cena's hosting the ESPYs. That just did this. Like if you can't see, you know, what that means in the big picture of what the WWE is today, okay, and their lowest ratings they've had in however many years, okay, and John Cena is the face of the company going on the ESPYs, all right? And John Cena at the live shows gets booed, okay? But John Cena, to this day, is still the only guy that they have, maybe Miz and maybe I don't even know. They're not in John Cena's category. John Cena is the only guy that you can take from your show, and maybe Roman too, but Roman doesn't have the charisma and can't speak like that. So yeah, Cena is the only guy. He's the only guy that you can take and make him the face of your company, put him out in front of a group of people that are not wrestling fans, and use him to try to get those people that are not wrestling fans to try to watch your show next week. he's the only guy you can do it with.
Yeah.
Okay, and people do not understand how important that is. That all they want to talk about is the matches, who's a good worker.
Yeah,
this guy,
Cena's got 3 moves.
He's got 3 moves.
Yeah.
You know, he can't work. Cena sucks. You know, John Cena says, bro, the guy's a draw. Okay, so these internet trolls and the approach, it speaks volumes of how pathetic and disgraceful the fan base of the WWE has become.
Yeah.
And the internet trolls and armchair quarterbacks and armchair bookers have how strong they have grown to where this guy is a guy they want to just cast aside. And let guys like Kevin Owens beat him, and let guys like Sami Zayn beat him, and just they want him to step aside right now and let other people move above him up the ladder on the card. And then you just want to say, bro, the people that you're moving above him on the ladder, how are you going to sell them to people that don't watch the show to get them to watch the show? It's such a simplistic mathematical formula that it's the elephant in the room that everybody kind of doesn't really like to talk about when things like this happen. You can't, bro. I mean, it's just.
Glenn, can you imagine if the WWE had a character? Can you imagine if they had a character who goes out there every week and says basically what you just said?
Oh, bro, let me tell you something. It would, first of all, a guy.
I mean, Glenn, how much do you hate? How much? Take what you just said and go give that speech in front of an IWC crowd.
Then move me out of the building.
Jeff?
I would love to say it though.
What kind of heat do they get? Even from the top, starting with Stephanie. What kind of heat do they get? Oh, you people in Boston suck. Like that's the heat they get, rather than the intelligent heat.
The intelligent heat saying, look, I say, boy, but here I am again this week, and probably one of the least impressive groups of people you could put a performer like me in front of. I go, you guys can go home and pick your nose and eat your boogers, and I'm gonna listen here, bro. It's like you could be more, you could make fun of the fan more personally. They're just telling them that they suck. You could tell them they suck because they sit in the room and play video games for 15 hours a day, and that they don't have girlfriends. They're unattractive. They smell. They pick their nose. They eat their people. You could say things like that, and they're gonna think that like they're not talking how could he say that? But it hit home. Because
Glenn, why don't you think, bro, can you imagine if they, and bro, I'm with you 1,000,000% on Cena. I say all the time, there's nobody outside of Brock Lesnar, there's nobody in that company that can shine his shoes, there's nobody that has the star power. He is people ask me all the time, who's the one guy you wish you could have worked with and did it? John Cena, without a doubt. It would have been a piece of cake. I would have loved it. Can you imagine, bro, if they let Cena say the things that you just said? Why don't you think they allow him to do that?
I don't know why. Because, like I said, bro, so the whole thing is not John Cena and Roman Reigns' angles aren't with anybody in the company. They're not with the writers. They're with the fans.
Yeah.
That's it. It's with, and like I've said this before on your show, and like people tweet and they say, "Well, I disagree with you on that and everything." But it's kind of, bro, there's a formula here. Okay, with the exception of Brock Lesnar. The fans don't like the guys that look really good. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
The muscular, good-looking, larger-than-life superstars have kind of just been booed. Like booed, like seriously booed.
Yeah.
Like we don't like you. We want the guys that don't look like wrestlers type heat. Like boo you. We want the guy that doesn't look like the wrestler to win. We don't want this guy to win. You don't know how to fake wrestle good enough. These guys. It's unbelievable. I mean, like that's what's happened to your audience when all the casual fans have left.
Yeah.
That's all you got of these people.
That's why, Glenn.
I've said this a million times. Let me finish. Yeah. I've said this a million times. I wrote about this back in 2000 when I was writing those columns for WrestleZone.com. In 2008, I wrote about this. I said this is an extension of your ECW fan base, okay? And I said those smart fans will put your company out of business. They put ECW out of business. And here they are. They've kind of like they've gone out to Ring of Honor. And now they're the smart fan base has infiltrated the WWE product to where it's its most vocal fan base. Bro, they will chase the other fans away.
Yeah.
That's what
absolutely.
they do.
Bro,
I can make a great case with a lot of evidence to support what I just said.
Bro,
so it's like,
I've had fathers. This is a shoot. I've had fathers email me and tweet me saying I brought my kids to the WWE event last night. Never again because of the crowd. Literally people. See, I know I'm still a wrestling fan.
And bro, they don't address that. Instead, they go, "Oh, what passionate fans we have here at the WWE." Bro, no, you don't. They're like I said, they're internet trolls. That's what your fan base is.
I know. In my heart of hearts, I'm still a wrestling fan. You know why? You know why I know? Because as soon as I look at Roman Reigns, I like that guy. I like him. I'm a fan of Roman. I have no problem saying he belongs. He should be there. I like him. Glenn, you want to hear something funny? You'll get the biggest kick out of this. The show was so bad this week, bro, that I made the statement. I would not be surprised if this is the show that dips below a 2. Now,
I didn't think it would either. I was thinking the same thing because the basketball game was so good.
Yeah, no, I didn't say it's going to. I said I wouldn't be surprised. Bro, I had some guy tweet me, "Oh, Vince, the rating was a 2.2, not under a 2. What do you have to say about that?" And I'm like, bro, are we really going to celebrate a 2.2 rating? Like, do you really want to sit here and celebrate that, bro?
Yeah. I'm just saying, bro, we're not. The thing is, too, it's like, well, we're talking about, I don't like burying, bro. Let me tell you something. I don't like talking derogatory about the writers and stuff and everything. But what I think has happened is because your fan base and human nature of like people spending so much time on the internet and reading blogs, reading opinions, it creates things in your mind and it creates a train of thought. And what's happened is this mindset that the internet, the smart fans have basically infested the wrestling industry, and created a type of a environment where it's cool as a fan to go to the show and be really uncool and cheer things that are going to make families and kids that are coming to the show that you're writing the show for and trying to book the show for to not come again. And that's like they're looking at that as like, and the next day they'll blog about how cool it was for the chant. They'll talk about the chants the fans made and stuff. And bro, the fan has too much strength right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Way too much strength right now. And bro, they're not good people. The fans are heels. The fans are not. These fans, the smart fan is a heel. It's not a good person, and it's not somebody that you really want around your product because history has shown. You'll either run the product into the ground because what you like doesn't draw, or you'll just run the rest of the fans away.
And what they're doing, bro, is they're taking that hardcore group, they're taking that demographic
and feeding it.
They're feeding it, and they're trying to make as much money off of every single one of those, rather than go after over the masses. Yeah. Glenn, how many times, bro? Listen, I'm a huge baseball fan. I know you're a big sports fan, bro. How many times, like, do you see a play like, say, Bryce Harper, bro? Say all of a sudden he goes 0 for 50. You think Bryce Harper's next game he's going to go out there, he's in this horrific slump, he's batting .220. You think the fans are going to start chanting, "You can hit, you can hit, you"? How many you can't? Yeah, how many you can't wrestle chants like do we hear? And people think that's cool and funny. It's like I don't get it, bro.
Yeah, it's like, bro, but this is what the new 18 to 34-year-old demographic. This is what they're the 16 and 17-year-old kids that are starting to come into that they're getting a year or two older, and now all of a sudden they're in your demographic, your target market for the next 16 years. This is what they're coming into.
Okay, Glenn, let me ask you this question because I really want to get into your head here, and I know we're going long, and that's okay because I want
Shark because it was your brilliant idea to bring Shark Boy on. Okay, so that's two shows Shark Boy's ruined. Shark Boy ruined one show, and D-Ball would ruin another show, right?
You I know you don't watch it every week. But you watch the NXT product, right?
No, I watch it.
You've seen it. You've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, Glenn, explain something to me because I consider you old school, traditional, respectful, a student of the game, and I got to tell you, Glenn, I would have considered Triple H all those things when I worked with him. Everything I said about you, I would have said about Hunter. But now, bro, here's the difference now, Glenn. Explain this to me. Now you've got this NXT experience. Look at the people in that. Bro, I stopped watching NXT because I could not take the crowd. I could not take it. It was obnoxious. I hated it.
Let me tell you something.
Let me just finish my question for a second. Okay, now, so you know that NXT experience that I'm talking about, it's everything now that's bleeding into the WWE. That's what's now, Glenn, explain to me. How can you sit there and see that and say that based on your background and your heritage and your respect and your honor, but yet Triple H, who I thought was along the same lines of you, is sitting there and promoting the NXT experience like it's the greatest thing in the world for professional wrestling? Now,
I don't know.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, man. He got trained by Killer Kowalski.
Right.
He got trained even more old school than I did, bro. I went to the gym the other day. I was going to an hour cardio. I popped in an NXT show. Okay, I said, all right, I'm going to watch NXT. I watched NXT, and after 46 minutes, I tweeted. I think it might have been the exact tweet. I go, I watched 46 minutes of NXT. I go, nobody's gotten booed yet. Okay, nobody's gotten. There's no heels. Like I'm watching the show, and they're cheering. They like everybody. Okay, so it's like, bro, they're not even learning how to so I'm like, and this is like this every week. I'm like, everybody's going out there. You get the heel versus the babyface. They're cheering both guys. I would be saying like, all right, guys, this is what you're doing wrong, okay? Because this is not, like I said, but like every week, they're promoting this like thing. But an old school guy like me, if I was like sitting there like in charge of that, I'd be going like, wait a second, what are you doing? It's like, well, this is not how you're supposed to be doing this. You're doing too many things that the people like to cheer. So it's like, so I can't understand. Maybe Hunter really doesn't watch it with that critical eye anymore, because maybe he's been in the business for the past 15 years and the changes have come so gradually that he doesn't really notice them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, like I said, but people that watch a show every week, as opposed to people like me that watch it periodically and quit watching at some points, because I remember the stuff that I liked, but it's harder to remember the stuff that you liked if you've been watching all of it for the past 15 years straight. Yeah. I can remember stuff like that. So if you've been watching the stuff in the past 15 years, bro, you're in your life, okay, your kids, okay, or VG7 is his 26th birthday, right? Yep. Can you remember what stuff you guys did when he was 10 and 11 years old, as opposed to 18 and 19? No. You remember the stuff when you were 8, when he was 18, 19, what you did? The stuff when he was 10, 11 years old, you kind of really don't remember it that much, do you? No. That's what happens. So because people that have been in the business from the get-go and have continued to watch this product evolve are forgetting, and they've lost the memory of the stuff that was successful. Yeah, which was back 20 years ago. It's gone from your memory. You can't remember it that much, and that's to me, that's my explanation of what's happened and why everybody's gotten so far away from it, and that's why just new fans are not gravitating towards the product, and the ones that used to watch it back then have just gradually started to leave. Is because they it was good and it's gotten worse.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, hit the last thing about the NXT announcer.
3 announcers actually have gotten released recently from WWE. The most recent one was Alex Reyes, who was in NXT. He believes that they were all released because of their fandom for wrestling, that they've been lifelong fans. So I'm like, have you guys ever heard of anything like this? Like technically somebody being fired for like being a mark? Because that's what I mean.
Well, bro, that's all they're hiring right now. Yeah. Not the marks. So it's like, I can't. No, I have no. I mean, or maybe. Well, I'll tell you this much. Okay. Maybe it's because they're too big of stooges or something. Maybe they're talking to the sheets too much or something. I mean, I don't even know what that means.
You know what?
They're too big of a fan before.
I know what it means. And Jeff, I could tell you, I experienced that many times, and this is something that's missing too, across the board, bro. and Glenn was just hitting on this in a different manner. Jeff, I was faced with this on many, many levels when people would get hired and they'd come in and they'd be total marks. And, bro, the thing, though, I had to sit down with these people and teach them the proper etiquette around the boys. I had to teach them.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
Bro, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Just for come on, but you gotta give a name and example.
BW. You figure that out, okay?
Okay. BW comes in. And what does he do specifically that you got to sit the guy down?
He's marking out over the talent. The talent, like here's what they do, Jeff. This is the perfect example, Glenn. Here's what they do. Immediately they think they're friends with the talent. Now, Glenn, you know the talent ain't friends with anybody. The talent is using you, and they're working you to work for them. That's what they do. So the first thing you learn is you're not buddies with the talent. You're not friends with the talent. You don't hang out with the talent after the show. That's the first thing you learn, and that's the first thing they do, bro. They come in, now they're working with the talent. They're one of the talent, and they're palling around with the talent. But the problem is there isn't that old school presence because you got a lot of, like Glenn just said, all they're hiring is marks. So you don't have that presence saying, bro, you got to know how to carry yourself in this locker room. Bro, BW, I got in a fight with his boss because I told his boss, take him off the freaking road. He does not know how to act around the talent. You need to take him off the road and teach him a lesson to smarten him up. But that's what's happening, bro. There's nobody.
How long ago was that?
Smarten these people. Oh my God, bro! Not that long ago.
Oh, since the TNA guy.
Yeah.
BW.
You know who I'm talking about.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, Jeff. So yeah, I saw it happen a lot, and yeah, it's just the old school etiquette, bro. It's gone. It's out the window.
Let me ask you guys this. You look at other entertainment industries, you look at movies, you look at music, new people in the business, in wrestling terms, they mark out all the time when they meet veterans in the industry. You see it all the time on Twitter, a new movie star with the old movie star, holy crap, I just met this person. You see it in interviews, with musicians and stuff. Why is it different in wrestling? Why is that frowned upon in wrestling, in your opinion?
I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I don't know why there's because maybe we talk about maybe because it's they're unwritten rules, and the reason they're unwritten rules because they're not written, and then the reason that they're followed is because they've just done it that way for so long, I don't know, bro. There's so many old school rules in wrestling that I don't necessarily agree with, but I mean, it's just the way things are. So and then plus if you don't abide by them, you're looked at, you're looked down upon, So, but I honestly have never figured that out.
I think I got a theory to that, Jeff. Okay, now you got to understand when you're talking about these announces. Okay, you're probably talking about WWE employees. Okay, bro. These wrestlers are still independent contractors. You understand? So there's a difference in working for the company and then taking the side of the independent contractors, bro, because realistically, a lot of these guys don't work for the company. They work for themselves. So, when you're in the office, bro, you're supposed to be representing the office. I found myself, bro, many times I got myself in trouble when I took the side of one of the talents because I was considered office. And office was always right. Office was never wrong. It was the independent contractor that was wrong. So I think that comes into play a lot with the structure. But that goes to what Glenn said, bro. The wrestling business has been set up that way since the beginning of time. But I think that has a lot to do with it.
I've seen people get made fun of because they tell another person in the business, I looked up to you, you were my hero, you're the reason I got into this business, and then, oh, what a mark. You know what I mean? Like, I know everybody's not like that, but some people are, and I just always thought that was weird.
I got a story. I wrestled Ric Flair in a house show main event one time when I was in the NWO in a small town in Florida. And before we went through the curtain, I'd never done this before, but I said, Rick, this is like a real honor for me. You were one of my favorites growing up and one of the reasons I broke in the business. And that's all I said, And he just like shook my hands and thanked. It really, he's like, bro, I really, you don't know how much I really appreciate that. And we went out there and worked, but I just felt like, sometimes when you're a veteran, it feels good to be told that. But like if like the guy's telling you that all the time and stuff, it's annoying. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, but I mean, like I can see it, but like guys want to be put over, but you don't want to be annoyed about it. You don't want to be told how great you are all the time and stuff. And you just like, but you'd like to be given that respect sometimes, Yeah. But.
Oh yeah, Jeff. I can't tell you, bro. I did that dozens of times, especially like with legitimate legends. Like, bro, I've met some. Like, bro, when I met Ernie Ladd, I almost couldn't talk to. When I met the Valiant Brothers, I almost couldn't say. But I let them know you're the reason I'm in this business. I mean, I talk, but I'm talking about guys that were like. That literally built the business,
Yeah, but plus you got to remember, too, the majority, when we broke in the business back then, the majority of the guys were fans of the guys before them.
Yeah.
Like back then, I mean, it's like, it's almost kind of hard to say now, because like there's not a lot of like, because like, we grew up in a time when we grew up watching and then working with Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And like, you just like, like when you think of what a Hall of Famer is in professional wrestling, and like you look back at what we worked with, the roster we had, we just had dozens. How many Hall of Famers you worked with? 30, 40, 50, bro. So look at the. Then it's funny just look at the roster today. It's like how many future Hall of Famers you see on that on that show that they would be like, hey, you're the reason you walk up together. You're the reason I got into wrestling. Or just like you just don't see it. There's not because there's just not.
It's funny, bro. When a Bret Hart appears on that show, you wonder how many guys really, really know what Bret represents. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, probably like girls like Natty and stuff and everything. Like his family, like that respected it and stuff and thing. But bro, the talent probably marked out more when Nakamura showed up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's true, right?
Yeah. Bro, you are so long-winded, man. Every time we have you on the show, it's overtime. And I also
I heard of it. I was on so long this week that they're changing the name of the program to Podcast 2.
Yeah, Podcast 2. And you were also very disrespectful to me on a couple of spots today.
How do you mean? You tried to hijack. You tried to ambush me.
You told me I don't know how to spell.
You made 100% true.
You made fun of me over the Batista thing.
You misspelled my name. You couldn't understand a simple tweet.
And the soft thing, you made fun of me.
You sounded like an imbecile. When you were doing that, I felt like telling you to edit that out because it's just people are just going to think that you're a complete imbecile.
Okay, bro.
For not knowing what that meant,
Bro, when you watch that for the first time, and they race through SAWFT, and then the fans go, so. You mean to tell me people at home, when they do that the first time, people immediately pick that up? You honestly believe that, bro? You honestly believe that? By the time he's
serviceable IQ.
No, I hate to break the news to you, bro.
Don't break, bro. You're not speaking. You're speaking on behalf of the people that didn't understand it, which is the small minority. Okay, everybody knows what that means. Soft. They say they're New Yorkers. That's their gimmick.
But you know it after you hear it a few times. That was my point.
Don't speak for me on that. I knew it the first time.
I didn't know it the first time, bro. And bro, I'm more of a New Yorker than you'll ever be, bro. And I didn't know it the first time.
Bro, I was born in Brooklyn, all right?
So was I born in Brooklyn. So was I. When did you leave New York, bro?
When I was 3, I was running the streets of that town when I was 3 years old.
And how many years did you live in the pansy state of Georgia, bro? How many years? Don't tell me about New York.
Jeff, let me ask you a question.
All right.
Did you know that what they meant the first time they said that?
The first time I saw it on NXT, I didn't see the word. Like, they spelled it out, and I didn't know what he said. Like, I didn't know the letters. But once I saw it, I knew they meant soft.
Right, that's what I'm saying, bro.
Like, I didn't get what he was spelling the first time I heard it.
That's what I'm saying.
But the first time I saw the word, I did get it.
Mhm.
So I guess it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah, mouth.
Well, I just think
you owe me an apology for this whole show. You were out of line.
We're completely not online. We did the right thing. You ended up apologizing to Shark Boy yourself, which you should have done because it was your idea. They finally you try to see. This is what you try to do. You try to get over on me, okay? And it always ends up, smacking you back in the face. All right. You tried to ambush me, and I ended up being in the right as usual, and you ended up apologizing to Shark Boy, and Shark Boy admitted that Dean Baldwin stunk. So it's like,
Yeah, but SWAT. They mean soft. Okay, bro. Yeah, every 55-year-old guy at home is saying, they mean soft. That's what they mean.
Bro, there's no 55-year-old people watching NXT. All right, so let's get that straight.
No, I said it when they came to Raw. That's when I said it should be explained.
Well, first of all, that's another thing we got to talk about. You're way out of the demographic right now. 18 to 34-year-old males. You're 55, bro. Maybe that's why maybe you're just out of touch.
What's the demographic?
The target market for all shows for the wrestling show is 18 to 34-year-old males.
So they built that time machine for 18 to 34-year-old males, bro? Is that what the time machine was built for? Is that what that was for?
That's the part I don't understand because USA, any network, that's what they want. And I think they've even raised it to 49 now. I think it's 18 to 49 what they consider that demographic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I feel like Raw's written for like 6 to.
Well, bro, I could just see the riders, bringing their briefcase, their laptop bags to work, and they got the laptops in there, and they got a bunch of comic book stuff in there too, and stuff in there, and they're writing the show, and they're all giggling at all the Bootios jokes. Like they're giggling like little fifth graders, like and stuff like that. I'm just looking at that going, maybe I'm 48, but even if I was back when I was 18, 19, I would have been laughing. That wasn't my humor. It was silly. It was not edgy. People like it. Humor needs to be more adult oriented. That's everything on TV, every show. The humor is geared towards an adult audience. Because kids are more adult these days because they're watching these adult shows with their parents. There's probably a lot of 13-year-old kids watching, 12 and 13-year-old kids watching Breaking Bad with their parents. So they're writing. They're writing under the cartoonish stuff because you could just tell that Stephanie's probably hired just a bunch of comic book marks and cartoon fans for their show. Guys, you know who Stephanie would hire, Vince?
Who?
You know who she would hire tomorrow?
Who?
If he would have to play Ed Ferrara. She would hire Ed Ferrara in a heartbeat.
Why do you say that?
Because he likes the comic books and the stuff. I just want to talk about it. So this week I buried who did I bury this week? I gotta have a little hit list. I buried Shark Boy.
Me 3 times.
I buried you.
Ed Ferrara.
Ed Ferrara. I buried Ahmed Heavy. I buried a Pat Kenny on the show too.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I get him. So I'm gonna tweet after this all the guys I did bury, and we'll see if they want to come and maybe do a rebuttal on your show sometime.
Bro, I could line up rebuttals from now till freaking January.
You know what I was thinking would be funny is if you told everybody that you're going to have one of your shows, you're going to do a roast of Glenn Gilberti and see who wants to sign up to be on.
Bro, we've already talked about the roast idea of Glenn Gilberti, bro. We'll line them up.
No, come on, are you serious?
I swear to God.
Nobody wanted to be on it.
Oh my God, bro, are you serious?
Nobody wanted to do it.
Hey, Glenn, tell everybody where they could follow you.
At The Real Disco.